The weight of the decision settled on Ji-won's shoulders like a physical burden. Around her, the bridge crew waited in silence, their enhanced consciousness allowing them to feel each other's thoughts and fears. Through her growing psychic awareness, she could sense similar conversations taking place aboard every human vessel within the Eternal Return. "Captain," Engineer So-Young-han said quietly, "if we don't make this choice, how many more species will the Valdari destroy?" "According to our records," Captain Choi replied, "the Empire currently oppresses 47 different civilizations. Without our protection, they will expand their dominance to encompass thousands of worlds." Admiral Park's voice came through the communication system, heavy with the burden of command. "Captain Choi, if our people undergo this transformation, will they retain their memories, their personalities?" "Yes, Admiral. They will remain essentially themselves, but with capabilities beyond normal human comprehension. They will become guardians not just of humanity, but of all innocent life in the galaxy." Medical Officer Hae-won Kim spoke up from her station. "Captain Lee, I've been monitoring the crew's brain patterns since we entered this vessel. The changes aren't just enhancements, they're preparing our neural structure for something much more profound." "What do you mean?" Ji-won asked. "Our minds are already adapting to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The transformation process has been happening gradually since we arrived. We're becoming capable of processing reality in ways that normal humans cannot." Physicist Dong Hyun-yu nodded in agreement. "I can perceive mathematical relationships that were invisible to me before. The equations governing quantum mechanics have become as simple as basic arithmetic." Ji-won closed her eyes and reached out with her enhanced senses. She could feel the fear and uncertainty of her crew, but beneath that, she sensed something else: determination, courage, the same stubborn refusal to surrender that had defined humanity throughout its expansion into space. "How many volunteers do you need?" she asked Captain Choi. "To create a force capable of overwhelming the Valdari's new weapons?" "At least 1,000 transformed humans across multiple vessels." "And the process is permanent?" "Completely. There is no return to normal human existence once the transformation is complete." Ji-won opened her eyes and looked around her bridge. Every face showed the same quiet resolve. Through her psychic link with them, she could feel their decision before they spoke it. "Captain," Communications Officer Yoo-jin Park said, "we've spent 3 years watching the Valdari Empire destroy human colonies. We've seen entire worlds burned, millions of our people enslaved or killed. If we can prevent that from happening to other species, the choice is clear," finished fighter pilot Jae-sung. Over the communications link. "We didn't become soldiers to live safe lives. We became soldiers to protect others." Admiral Park's voice carried the weight of final decision. "Captain Choi, how many of my people are you able to transform?" "All who are willing," Choi replied. "But Admiral, you should know that some will choose to remain human and return to normal space with news of what transpired here. Not everyone must make this sacrifice, understood? All vessels, this is Admiral Park. Anyone who wishes to return to human-controlled space with our report may transfer to the Incheon's Wrath. Captain Nam will take you home. Everyone else, prepare for transformation." Over the next hour, Ji-won watched as crew members made their choices. About 30% chose to return home, unwilling or unable to give up their humanity forever. She didn't blame them. The choice they faced was beyond anything humans had ever confronted before. The remaining crew members, over 800 volunteers from across the fleet, gathered in the vast internal spaces of the ghost ships. The transformation chambers that materialized around them looked like crystalline cocoons, each one perfectly designed for its occupant. "Captain Lee," Captain Choi said as Ji-won prepared to enter her own transformation chamber. "Are you certain about this choice? You are giving up everything you have ever known." "Captain Choi," she replied, 3 years ago I swore an oath to protect humanity from its enemies. Today I'm extending that oath to protect all innocent life in the galaxy. That seems like the logical next step." The transformation process was unlike anything she had imagined. Her consciousness expanded beyond the boundaries of her physical form, spreading across dimensions she had never known existed. She could feel the quantum structure of reality itself, the fundamental forces that held the universe together. Her body became something more than flesh and bone, a perfect fusion of matter, energy, and pure will. When she emerged from the cocoon, Ji-won was no longer entirely human. Her eyes held depths of starlight. Her skin shimmered with inner energy, and her awareness encompassed vast reaches of space and time. But her memories remained intact, her personality unchanged, her commitment to protecting others stronger than ever. Around her, the other volunteers were completing their own transformations. Engineer Han emerged with the ability to manipulate matter at the molecular level. Physicist Yu could now perceive the mathematical structure underlying reality itself. Pilot O had become one with his fighter, able to exist simultaneously in normal space and higher dimensions. "Welcome," said Captain Choi, his voice now carrying harmonics that resonated across multiple dimensions, "to the next stage of human evolution." The response to their transformation came within days. The Valdari Empire launched their ultimate weapon, dimensional disruptors designed to tear apart quantum-enhanced beings. Reality anchors that forced transformed humans back into normal space, where they could be destroyed. But they had underestimated the power of 1,000 transformed humans working in perfect coordination. The human ghost fleet met the Valdari Armada at the edge of the galaxy. The enemy brought 10,000 ships, dimensional weapons, and the confidence born of centuries of conquest. The humans brought something the Valdari had never encountered before, an entire species' capacity for sacrifice and growth. The battle lasted 6 hours and reshaped the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The dimensional disruptors failed against beings who existed, in states the Valdari weapons couldn't target. Reality anchors proved useless against consciousness that had evolved beyond the need for fixed existence. And when the transformed humans began working together, their combined will became a force that could reshape reality itself. By the battle's end, the Valdari Armada was completely disabled, their crews alive but their weapons permanently neutralized. Supreme Commander Korthak himself was captured, his ancient mind forced to confront the reality that some species were capable of evolution beyond his comprehension. In the aftermath, the transformed humans scattered across the galaxy, each taking responsibility for protecting entire sectors of space. They became legends whispered about in the deepest reaches of known space. Ghost ships that appeared wherever innocent life was threatened. Guardians who had given up their humanity to protect the humanity of others. Ji-Wan took command of the rebuilt Soul's Pride, now transformed into something beyond the dreams of normal engineering. Her crew of enhanced humans patrolled the outer rim, protecting young civilizations from threats they couldn't yet comprehend. Sometimes, in the quiet moments between crises, she wondered if they had made the right choice. Then she would receive reports of colonies saved, of species preserved, of entire civilizations given the chance to grow and flourish under their protection. And she knew that their sacrifice had been worth it. The ghost ships had emerged from humanity's darkest hour, and in their wake, the galaxy had become a place where innocent life could thrive. They had lost their humanity to save humanity itself, and in doing so, had become something greater than they had ever imagined possible. The universe was vast and full of dangers, but now it also held guardians who would never stop fighting for those who couldn't fight for themselves, and in the end, that was the most human legacy of all. The 6 additional ghost ships arrived like harbingers of a new age. Each one was massive and unique, their hulls crafted from materials that seemed to bend light and space around them. Ji-Wan watched through the Eternal Return sensors as they took positions around the disabled Valdari fleet. "Captain Lee," said Captain Choi, "I want you to witness something that has never been seen by unenhanced humans." The main display shifted to show all 7 ghost ships from an external perspective. As Ji-Wan watched, the vessels began to change. Their hulls flowed like liquid, reshaping themselves into forms that hurt her eyes to look at directly. Patterns of energy flowed between the ships, connecting them in a web of power that made local space itself seem to vibrate. "What are they doing?" Engineer So-Young Han asked in amazement. "They are preparing to demonstrate why the Valdari Empire has spent centuries in fear," Captain Choi replied. The disabled Valdari ships began to move. Not under their own power. Their systems remained completely dead. Instead, they were being moved by the ghost ships, gently pushed away from the battle zone by invisible forces. "We are returning their crews to Valdari space," explained Captain Sora Kim over the communications link. "They will carry word of what they witnessed here. Won't that just bring more Valdari fleets to hunt you down?" Admiral Park asked. "Let them come," said another ghost ship captain, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. It is time the Empire learned the full truth about what humanity can become. Medical Officer Haewon Kim looked up from her instruments with wide eyes. Captain Lee, the enhancements in our crew have reached a new level. I'm reading brain activity patterns that shouldn't be possible with normal human neural structure. Ji-won touched her temple again. The sensation was stronger now. She could feel her crew's thoughts and emotions as if they were extensions of her own consciousness. When she looked at physicist Dong-hyun-yu, she somehow knew what he was thinking before he spoke. "Captain," Dong-hyun said, confirming her intuition, "I think I'm beginning to understand how their technology works. It's not technology in the way we understand it. It's a direct interface between consciousness and the fundamental forces of the universe." "Correct," Captain Choi confirmed. "What you call technology, we have learned to control through will and understanding. The ship responds to our thoughts because we have become one with it." Fighter pilot Jae Sung-oh's voice came over the communications with barely contained excitement. "Captain, I just flew my interceptor through the Eternal Return's hull without damaging either vessel. My ship passed through solid matter like it was empty, space. The barriers between dimensions become permeable when consciousness evolves, beyond normal human limitations," explained Captain Choi. "Your pilot is learning to exist in multiple states simultaneously." The implications hit Ji-won with stunning force. "You're saying we're becoming like you, all of us." "The process takes time to complete," said Captain Sora Kim from her ghost ship. "But yes, exposure to our enhanced fields accelerates human evolution. You are witnessing your own species' next evolutionary step." Communications Officer Yoo-jin Park suddenly stiffened at her station. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from Valdari Space. It's coming from their Supreme Command." "Put it through," Ji-won ordered. The main screen filled with the image of a Valdari unlike any they had seen before. This one was ancient, its scales dark with age, its eyes holding the cold intelligence of a creature that had lived for centuries. When it spoke, its voice carried the authority of absolute power. "Unknown vessels," the ancient Valdari said. "I am Supreme Commander Korthak, ruler of the Valdari Empire. You have interfered with our conquest for the last time. Our ancient records speak of your kind, void spirits who hide in the darkness between stars. But our ancestors were weak." "We are not," Captain Choi's voice replied calmly. "Supreme Commander, your fleets have been disabled and your crews returned unharmed. This system is now under our protection. Withdraw your forces and no further harm will come to them." Korthak's laugh was like breaking glass. "You still do not understand, Spirit. We have spent 1,000 years preparing for this moment. We know your weaknesses, your limitations, your inability to initiate unprovoked attacks." The ancient Valdari's image shifted, showing massive space installations hidden in the deep void between star systems. "We have built weapons specifically designed to destroy your kind. Dimensional disruptors that can tear apart your quantum existence. Reality anchors that force you back into normal space where you can be destroyed." Ji-won felt a chill of fear, but Captain Choi's voice remained steady. "Supreme Commander, you speak of weapons that were theoretical when your empire was young. Have you actually tested these devices?" "We have," Korthak replied with satisfaction. 3 of your ships have already been destroyed by our new weapons. The Void Spirit Endless Journey was annihilated 6 months ago. Your precious evolved humans died screaming as their quantum existence collapsed. The silence that followed was profound. Ji-won could feel the shock and grief radiating from the ghost ship crews through her enhanced awareness. Captain Sora Kim's voice was tight with controlled emotion. The Endless Journey was protecting the Centauri colonies. If Korthak is telling the truth, the colonies are gone, finished another ghost ship captain, along with Captain Sung-min Park and his entire crew. Admiral Park's voice was urgent. "Captains, if the Valdari have weapons that can destroy your ships, then all of human space is in danger." "More than that," Captain Choi replied. "Without our protection, dozens of younger species will fall to the Empire. The Valdari will expand unchecked across the galaxy." Supreme Commander Korthak continued his transmission. "We offer you a choice, Void Spirits. Surrender yourselves for study and experimentation, and we will allow normal humanity to exist as our slaves. Refuse, and we will hunt down and destroy every one of your ships, then exterminate every human in the galaxy." "How long do we have?" Captain Sora Kim asked. "1 standard week," Korthak replied. "After that, our dimensional weapons will be deployed throughout this sector. Your enhanced existence will become your tomb." The transmission ended, leaving the combined fleet in stunned silence. "Captain Choi," Ji-won said urgently, "there has to be a way to fight these new weapons." "There is," Choi replied, but his voice carried a weight of terrible decision. "But it would require us to take a step we have never taken before." "What kind of step?" "Complete transformation of willing humans. Not just enhancement, but full evolution into our quantum state. An army of transformed humans could overwhelm the Valdari weapons through sheer numbers." "What would that mean for the people who undergo the transformation?" Captain Choi's answer was grave. "They would gain incredible power and near immortality, but they could never return to normal human existence. They would become guardians of the galaxy, protectors of all innocent life, but they would cease to be human in any way that matters to normal existence." Ji-won looked around her bridge at her crew, all of whom had heard the conversation. She could feel their thoughts through her enhanced awareness, their willingness to sacrifice everything for the greater good. It was, she realized, the most human response of all. In the silence that followed the complete destruction of the Valdari fleet, Ji-won tried to process what she had witnessed. 300 of the most advanced warships in known space had been rendered helpless in a single moment. No weapons fire, no explosions, just absolute total defeat. "Captain," Engineer So Young-han said quietly, "I'm reading life signs from the disabled Valdari ships. Their crews are alive but trapped aboard powerless vessels. We do not kill unnecessarily," Captain Choi's voice reminded them. "The Valdari crews will be rescued by their own people and returned to their empire. They will carry with them a message that certain regions of space are now forbidden to them." Medical Officer Hai Won Kim looked up from her instruments with growing excitement. "Captain Lee, the neural enhancements in our crew are continuing to develop. People are reporting improved memory, faster thinking, and something like telepathic awareness of each other." Ji-won touched her own temple. Now that the doctor mentioned it, she did feel different, sharper, more aware of her surroundings and her crew's emotional states. "Is this permanent?" "Unknown," Dr. Kim replied, "but the changes seem to be accelerating." Through the communications system, Admiral Park addressed Captain Choi directly. "Captain, you've given us an incredible gift today. You've saved not just our lives, but possibly all of human-controlled space. The Valdari will think twice before attacking our colonies now." "Admiral," Choi replied, "I'm afraid the situation is more complex than that. What happened here today will not remain secret. The Valdari Empire will investigate, and they will discover technologies that will concern them greatly." "What do you mean?" Captain Choi's voice took on a more serious tone. "The Valdari have ancient records of encounters with ships like ours. They call us void spirits, and have spent centuries trying to understand our technology. Today's demonstration will trigger a massive response." Physicist Dong Hyun Yu leaned forward at his station. "Captain Choi, are you saying the Valdari Empire has been studying your people?" "Not studying, hunting. The Empire has dedicated entire fleets to tracking down and destroying ships like the Eternal Return. They see us as the greatest threat to their expansion across the galaxy." Ji-won felt a chill run down her spine. "How many ships like yours exist?" 47 vessels remain active, each protecting different regions of space. We are the survivors of dozens of human colony expeditions that chose transformation over death. But the Valdari have destroyed many of our sister ships over the centuries. The implications hit Ji-won like a physical blow. "You're saying there are only 47 ships protecting the entire galaxy from the Valdari Empire?" "The galaxy is vast, Captain Lee. But yes, we are spread thin, and the Empire grows stronger each year while our numbers diminish." Admiral Park's voice was tight with emotion. "Captain Choi, if you have the power to defeat entire fleets, why don't you simply destroy the Valdari Empire entirely?" There was a long pause before Choi answered. "Admiral, the transformation that gave us these abilities also changed our fundamental nature. We cannot initiate unprovoked attacks. We can only respond to direct threats against innocent life. It is both our greatest strength and our greatest limitation." "But surely the Valdari Empire's very existence is a threat to innocent life," Ji-won argued. "Indeed it is. But our enhanced consciousness prevents us from committing genocide, even against a species as aggressive as the Valdari. We disable their ships and protect their victims, but we cannot eliminate them entirely." Communications Officer Eugene Park suddenly looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from deep space. It's coming from multiple directions simultaneously." "Put it through," Ji-won ordered. The main screen flickered, then resolved to show a dozen faces, all human but somehow different. Their eyes held depths that seemed to contain starlight, and their faces had an ageless quality that was both beautiful and unsettling. "Greetings, Captain Choi," said one of the figures, a woman with silver hair and eyes like distant galaxies. "We are the captains of the 13th Fleet. We felt the disruption you caused in local space-time." "Captain Sora Kim," Choi replied, and Jiwon could hear the warmth in his voice. "It is good to see friendly faces. How many of our vessels are in this sector?" "7 ships are within 3 light years of your position," Captain Kim replied. "We came as soon as we detected the massive Valdari presence." Jiwon realized she was looking at the commanders of other transformed ships. Each face on the screen represented centuries of experience and power beyond her comprehension. "The situation has become complicated," Captain Choi explained to his fellow transformed humans. "The Valdari brought over 400 ships to this system. Their home base will investigate when the fleet fails to report in." "How long do we have?" asked another captain, a man whose skin seemed to shimmer with inner light. "Perhaps 6 standard days before they send scouts. 2 weeks before they mount a major investigation." Medical Officer Kim interrupted the conversation with an urgent report. "Captain Lee, the neural enhancements in our crew have accelerated dramatically. I'm reading brain activity patterns I've never seen before." Jiwon looked around her bridge and realized the doctor was right. Her crew moved with new precision and coordination. When Yujin reached for her controls, Donghyun was already adjusting his displays to complement her actions without being asked. It was as if they were becoming parts of a single organism. "Captain Choi," she said, "what's happening to my people? They are becoming what we once were, in the early stages of transformation. Prolonged exposure to our technology enhances human consciousness and ability. Is it reversible?" "No, Captain Lee, the changes are permanent. But they are not unwelcome. Your people are becoming more than human while remaining essentially human." Fighter pilot Jae Sung, who had been listening to the conversation from his damaged interceptor, spoke up over the communications. "Captain, I can feel my ship responding to my thoughts. The controls aren't just extensions of my hands anymore. They're extensions of my mind. That is the beginning of true symbiosis with your technology," explained Captain Sora Kim from the screen. "In time, you will be able to interface directly with any human-built device." Admiral Park's voice was thoughtful. "Captain Choi, you said the Valdari will investigate what happened here. What exactly will they find?" "They will discover that normal human crews achieved enhanced performance levels through exposure to our technology. They will realize that humanity has the potential for transformation beyond their ability to control or understand." The implications were staggering. Jiwon understood now why the Valdari Empire feared the transformed humans. It wasn't just their individual power. It was the potential for all of humanity to evolve beyond Valdari dominance. "Captain," she said slowly, "you're not just protecting human colonies from the Valdari. You're protecting humanity's future evolution." "Yes, Captain Lee. And now that future has taken a significant step forward. The question is whether your people are ready for what comes next." As if summoned by his words, long-range sensors detected new contacts entering the system. But these weren't Valdari ships. The energy signatures were familiar yet different. Human vessels, but enhanced far beyond normal capabilities. "The cavalry has arrived," Captain Choi said with satisfaction. 6 more ghost ships coming to ensure this system remains secure." Jiwon realized that everything was about to change, not just for her crew, but for all of humanity. The Valdari fleet commander, Vorthak the Destroyer, had conquered 17 star systems. He had crushed rebellions on 43 worlds. He had never retreated from any battle, but as he watched his mighty warships go dark one by one, fear crept into his cold reptilian heart for the first time in decades. "Report," he hissed at his bridge crew through sharp teeth. "What is happening to my ships?" "Commander," his science officer replied, voice shaking, "we cannot determine the cause. The affected vessels show no signs of weapon impact. Their systems simply stop functioning." Inside the mysterious vessel, G1 watched the chaos spreading through the enemy fleet. The tactical display showed Valdari ships breaking formation, their captains no longer confident in their technology's superiority. "Captain Choi," she called through the communication system. "How are you doing this? Our sensors show no weapons fire, no energy beams, nothing that explains how you're disabling their ships." Captain Choi's voice came back calm and patient. Captain Lee, what you're witnessing is the application of principles your current science has not yet discovered. We manipulate the fundamental forces that hold matter and energy together. Physicist Dong-Hyun Yu leaned forward at his station. Are you saying you can control atomic bonds? Molecular structures? Among other things, yes. When we encountered the ancient technology in the void between stars, it opened our understanding to the true nature of reality. We learned that the universe has layers, dimensions beyond what normal human senses can perceive. Engineer So Young-han was studying her instruments with growing amazement. Captain, the energy readings from this ship are unlike anything I've ever seen. It's as if the vessel exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. That is essentially correct, Captain Choi confirmed. The Eternal Return and her crew exist in what you might call a quantum state. We are simultaneously matter and energy, existing in normal space and in dimensions beyond your current perception. Admiral Park's voice joined the conversation from his own ship. Captain Choi, if your people have such advanced technology, why haven't you shared it with the rest of humanity? We could have defended ourselves against the Valdari Empire years ago. There was a long pause before Choi answered. Admiral, the knowledge we possess cannot simply be taught. It requires a fundamental transformation of human consciousness and biology. The process changes a person completely and irreversibly. What do you mean? Ji-won asked. The crew of the Eternal Return are no longer entirely human in the way you understand humanity. We retain our memories, our personalities, our core values. But we exist between life and death, between matter and energy. We cannot return to normal human existence. Through the ship's sensors, Ji-won watched as more Valdari vessels tried to approach the mysterious ship. Each one that came within a certain range simply went dark. Its crew alive, but its technology completely disabled. The Valdari fleet is trying to establish a communication link with their home base, reported Communications Officer Yu-jin. Park, they're calling for emergency reinforcements. How many more ships are they bringing? Admiral Park asked. According to their transmissions, at least 300 additional vessels are en route to this system. Ji-won felt her heart sink. Even with the mysterious ship's incredible abilities, 300 fresh Valdari warships seemed like overwhelming odds. Captain Choi seemed to read her thoughts. Captain Lee, your concern is understandable but unnecessary. The Valdari Empire has faced ships like ours before, though they have tried to suppress that knowledge. What do you mean? She asked. Show them, Choi said, apparently speaking to his crew. The main display in Ji-won's bridge suddenly showed historical records from Valdari databases. Ancient texts spoke of void spirits that appeared in deep space, ships that could not be destroyed by conventional weapons. The records described encounters with vessels that disabled entire fleets without firing a shot. These accounts go back over 1,000 years in Valdari history, Choi explained. There are certain regions of space the Valdari Empire avoids completely. Areas where their ships have vanished without explanation. You've been protecting other species from the Valdari for 1,000 years? Engineer Han asked in amazement. Not just us. There are dozens of ships like the Eternal Return, crewed by humans who chose transformation over death. Each one protects a different region of the galaxy, ensuring that younger civilizations have the chance to develop without being crushed by aggressive empires. Medical Officer Hae-won Kim, who had been quietly monitoring the crew's vital signs, suddenly spoke up. Captain Lee, I'm detecting strange readings from our people. Ever since we entered this vessel, everyone's neural activity has increased significantly. Is that dangerous? Ji-won asked. I don't think so. If anything, the crew seems more alert, more coordinated. Reaction times have improved across the board. Captain Choi's voice took on a note of interest. Dr. Kim, what you're observing is the beginning of enhancement. Proximity to our vessel affects normal humans in beneficial ways. Your people are becoming more than they were. Before anyone could ask what that meant, the tactical display showed new contacts entering the system. The Valdari reinforcements had arrived. Over 300 warships jumping out of hyperspace in perfect formation. All human vessels, Captain Choi announced, prepare to witness why the Valdari Empire fears to enter certain regions of space. The reinforcement fleet immediately began broadcasting threats and demands for surrender. Their commander, an even more decorated Valdari general, announced his intention to destroy the mysterious vessel and execute every human survivor. Captain Choi, Admiral Park said urgently, there are too many of them. Even with your abilities, surely 300 ships are too many to disable simultaneously. Admiral, Choi replied, with what sounded like amusement. You still think in terms of conventional warfare. Watch and learn how the universe truly works. The massive alien fleet began its approach, plasma cannons charging, missile tubes loading. They came in waves, trying to overwhelm the single mysterious vessel through sheer numbers. They never got the chance to fire a single shot. As the first wave of Valdari ships closed to attack range, something impossible happened. Every single vessel in the enemy fleet simply stopped working. Not gradually, not one by one as before, but all at once. 300 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy became floating metal coffins in the space of a single heartbeat. How? G1 whispered, staring at the tactical display in shock. The transformation we underwent grants us abilities that transcend normal physical limitations, Captain Choi explained. We can affect matter and energy across vast distances simultaneously. The size of the enemy fleet is irrelevant. Through intercepted communications, the human crews could hear the panic spreading through the Valdari ranks. Ship after ship reported total system failures. Emergency backup systems refused to activate. Even their escape pods were powerless. For the first time in over a century, a Valdari invasion fleet had been completely defeated without the enemy firing a single shot. The question now, Captain Choi said, is what humanity chooses to do with this knowledge. As the human fleet limped toward the massive unknown vessel, Ji-won kept expecting it to open fire. Any ship that large had to carry enough weapons to destroy her entire fleet in seconds. But the dark hull remained silent, moving through space like a sleeping giant. Captain, said Communications Officer Eugene Park, her voice shaking, I'm picking up a transmission from the unknown vessel. Put it through, Ji-won ordered, though every instinct told her this was a trap. The main screen flickered, then cleared to show static. Through the interference, a voice emerged. It was calm, measured, and speaking perfect Korean. This is Captain Minho Choi of the Earth vessel Eternal Return. Human vessels, move to our coordinates immediately. You are in danger. The bridge fell completely silent. Ji-won felt the blood drain from her face. Every person on the bridge stared at the communication station in shock. Eugene, Ji-won said carefully, run that transmission again. Check the ship's database for that vessel name. Eugene's fingers flew over her controls. After a few seconds, she looked up with wide eyes. Captain, according to our historical records, the Eternal Return was a colony ship that disappeared 312 years ago. It was part of the first wave of human expansion. All hands were presumed dead. Engineer So Young-han spoke up from her station. Captain, that's impossible. Even if that ship survived somehow, everyone aboard would have died of old age centuries ago. Unless, said physicist Dong Hyun-yu slowly, they found a way to extend human life far beyond normal limits. The voice came through the communications again. Human vessels, respond immediately. The Valdari fleet is preparing for a final assault. You have perhaps 3 minutes before they overwhelm your position. Admiral Park's voice crackled over the fleet channel. Unknown vessel. This is Admiral Hyun-woo Park of the Human Colonial Defense Force. Please identify yourself and state your intentions. There was a pause, then Captain Choi's voice returned. Admiral Park, I know this is difficult to understand. The Eternal Return has been watching over humanity's expansion for 3 centuries. We intervene only when our people face complete extinction. Ji-won looked at her tactical display. The Valdari fleet was indeed repositioning for what looked like a final attack. Over 100 enemy ships were moving into formation, their plasma cannons charging for a massive bombardment. Captain, Engineer Han called out, I'm getting energy readings from that ship that make no sense. The power output is beyond anything our technology can produce, and the hull composition, it's like nothing I've ever seen. Explain, Ji-won said. The materials appear to exist in a quantum state. They're solid, but they're also something else. My instruments can't get consistent readings. The mysterious ship began moving closer to the human fleet. As it approached, Ji-won could see more details of its design. The hull was covered in patterns that seemed to shift when she wasn't looking directly at them. Lights moved along the surface in ways that hurt to watch, as if they existed in dimensions her eyes couldn't properly process. All human vessels, Captain Choi's voice came again. Dock with our ship immediately. We will provide protection while we evacuate your crews. Dock? Admiral Park sounded confused. Your ship shows no docking bays. Admiral, please trust us. Your ships will be accommodated. Jiwan made another command decision. Helm, take us closer to that vessel. All hands, prepare for possible evacuation. As the Soul's Pride approached the enormous ship, something impossible happened. The dark hull began to shift and flow like liquid metal. Openings appeared where none had existed before, perfectly sized to accommodate the human vessels. Captain, her pilot said in a shaking voice, the ship is changing shape to fit us. I can see that, Ji-won replied, though she could barely believe her own eyes. One by one, the surviving human ships moved toward the openings in the mystery vessel's hull. The Busan Defender went first, sliding into what looked like solid metal that parted like water around it. This is Captain Kim. Taemin's voice came over the communications. I'm inside some kind of docking bay, but it's unlike anything I've ever seen. The walls seemed to be alive. Ji-won felt her ship enter the opening in the hull. The sensation was strange, like moving through thick liquid but without any resistance. Then suddenly they were inside a vast space that couldn't possibly fit within the ship they had seen from outside. Captain, Engineer Han said in amazement, the internal dimensions of this vessel are larger than the external dimensions. That should be impossible. Add it to the list of impossible things, Ji-won muttered. As soon as all the human ships were safely inside, the openings in the hull sealed seamlessly. The mysterious vessel, now carrying the entire human fleet within its impossible interior, turned to face the Valdari Armada. Through the communications system, Captain Choi's voice reached every human ship. Crew members of the Colonial Defense Force, you are now under our protection. What you are about to witness may be difficult to understand. What are you? Admiral Park asked directly. There was a long pause before Choi answered. We are what humanity becomes, Admiral. We are what your descendants chose to become when faced with forces beyond normal human ability to comprehend. Ji-won looked at her tactical screens. The readings from outside the ship made no sense. The Valdari fleet was approaching, but the displays showed energy patterns that her instruments couldn't interpret. Captain Choi, she said, our people have been fighting the Valdari Empire for years. They've destroyed dozens of human colonies. If you have the power to stop them, why haven't you intervened before? We have intervened, Captain Lee, more times than you know, but we operate under strict rules. We act only when humanity faces complete extinction in a sector. Today, in this battle, those conditions have been met. Through the ship's sensors, Ji-won watched as the Valdari fleet closed to attack range. Forthak's flagship led the charge, its massive plasma cannons powering up for a devastating barrage. All Valdari vessels, a new voice spoke over open channels. It was Captain Choi, but now he was broadcasting to the enemy fleet. You will cease your attack on human vessels and withdraw from this system immediately. The response from the Valdari flagship was swift and contemptuous. Unknown vessel, you will surrender immediately or be destroyed. The human vermin under your protection are sentenced to death by order of the Valdari Empire. Captain Choi's reply was calm and final. Very well. You have chosen your path. Ji-won braced herself for the sound of weapons fire, for the shake of impact, for the familiar chaos of space combat. Instead, something far more terrifying happened. The Valdari ships simply began to stop working. One by one across the enemy fleet, warships went dark. Their engines shut down, their weapons powered off, their communications fell silent. In less than a minute, over 50 Valdari vessels became dead hulks floating in space. How? Engineer Han whispered, staring at her readings in shock. We do not destroy life unnecessarily, Captain Choi explained to the human crews. But we can disable any technology that threatens innocent beings. Through the tactical display, Ji-won watched as panic spread through the remaining Valdari fleet. Ships that had been moving in perfect formation began breaking ranks. Their commanders suddenly faced with an enemy that could shut down their vessels without firing a shot. For the first time in 3 years of war, Ji-won saw Valdari ships retreating in fear. Captain Ji-won Lee pressed her face against the cold metal of the bridge viewport, watching her fleet die. The stars around Kepler 442 burned bright, but not as bright as the explosions tearing through human ships. Each flash meant hundreds of her people were gone forever. Hull breach on Deck 7, shouted Communications Officer Yoo-jin Park from her station. The Daegu runner just lost main power. Ji-won turned back to the tactical display. 12 human ships had started this fight. Now only 8 remained, and even those were badly damaged. The enemy had over 200 warships still firing at them. The math was simple and terrible. "Admiral Park, we need to retreat," Ji-won said into her communicator. She hated saying those words, but someone had to. Admiral Hyun-woo Park's voice crackled back through the static. "Where can we run, Captain? They're faster than us. They've got more ships. This is humanity's last stand in this sector." Ji-won knew he was right. The Valdari Empire had been crushing human colonies for 3 years now. The reptilian warriors showed no mercy. They enslaved some humans and killed the rest. Every battle ended the same way, with human ships burning and Valdari flags planted on dead worlds. The bridge shook as another plasma bolt hit their shields. Engineer So Young-han called out damage reports from her station. Shield strength down to 30%. The main reactor is running hot. Through the viewport, Ji-won could see the enemy flagship. It was massive, easily 3 times the size of her cruiser Soul's Pride. Green plasma cannons lined its hull like deadly teeth. The ship's commander, Vorthak the Destroyer, had personally overseen the deaths of millions of humans. Today he would add Ji-won's fleet to that count. "Captain Kim, status report," Ji-won called to the Busan Defender. Captain Tai-Mian Kim's voice was strained. "We're down to emergency power. Half my crew is dead. But we're still fighting." That was humanity for you, Ji-won thought. Still fighting even when there was no hope left. Maybe that stubbornness was why the Valdari hated them so much. Other species surrendered when the odds were impossible. Humans just got angry and fought harder. "Wait," said physicist Dong Hyun-yu from the science station. His voice was confused. "I'm reading something strange on long-range sensors." "Strange how?" Ji-won asked, moving to look at his display. "There's an energy signature approaching from deep space. It's moving fast, really fast, but the readings don't match any ship design I know." Engineer Han frowned at her own screens. "The power output is incredible. Whatever that is, it's bigger than anything I've ever seen." Admiral Park's voice cut through their conversation. "All ships, we've got an unknown contact approaching from the outer system. The computer can't identify it." Ji-won felt a tiny spark of hope in her chest, but she pushed it down. Hope was dangerous in a battle like this. Still, she couldn't help but watch the approaching signature on the tactical display. The Valdari seemed to notice it too. Their attack pattern shifted slightly, some ships turning to face the new arrival. But Vorthak's flagship kept firing at the human fleet. The reptilian commander probably thought it was just another human ship arriving too late to matter. "The signature is getting stronger," Dong-hyun reported. "Captain, whatever this is, it's massive. The computer estimates it's at least 5 kilometers long." That made Ji-won pause. The largest human ship ever built was barely 2 kilometers. The Valdari flagship was just over 3. What could be that big? Could it be Valdari reinforcements? Asked Yu-jin from communications. "No," said Engineer Han, studying her readings. "The energy patterns are all wrong. This isn't Valdari technology. It isn't human technology either. At least not any human technology I recognize." The bridge shook again as more enemy fire found their shields. Warning lights flashed red across every station. They were running out of time to worry about mysterious contacts. "All remaining ships form up on my position," Admiral Park commanded. "We'll make our last stand together." The surviving human vessels limped into a defensive formation. The Soul's Pride, the Busan Defender, the Incheon's Wrath, and 5 smaller ships. Against 200 Valdari warships, it was like throwing stones at a mountain. "Captain," Dong-hyun said urgently, "the unknown contact will be in visual range in 30 seconds. Ji-won looked at the main screen as the tactical computer tried to resolve the approaching signature. Static filled the display, then cleared for a moment. What she saw made her breath catch in her throat. The ship was enormous, easily dwarfing every vessel in the battle. Its hull was dark, so dark it seemed to absorb the light from nearby stars. The design was strange, angular in some places, curved in others, like someone had taken human ship designs and evolved them far beyond anything current technology could build. "My God," whispered Engineer Han. "Look at the hull composition readings. Those materials shouldn't exist." The massive ship moved through space with impossible grace for something so large. It didn't seem to accelerate so much as simply appear in new positions, as if distance meant nothing to it. "All ships, this is Admiral Park." The fleet commander's voice was tight with shock. "Are any of you getting readings on that vessel?" Captain Kim from the Busan Defender responded first. "Admiral, my computer can't get a consistent lock. The readings keep changing like the ship exists in multiple states at once." G1 stared at the mysterious vessel as it approached the battle zone. Part of her wanted to order her ship away from it. Unknown technology was dangerous, especially in the middle of a firefight. But another part of her, the part that refused to surrender even when hope was gone, whispered that maybe, just maybe, the impossible had arrived to save them. The Valdari fleet seemed confused by the newcomer. Their tight attack formation wavered as ship commanders tried to decide whether to continue destroying the humans or deal with the new threat. That moment of confusion was all the hope G1 had left. She made a command decision that would change everything. Helm set course for that unknown vessel. "Maximum speed, Captain?" her pilot asked, uncertain. "You heard me. We're going to find out what that thing is, and we're going to hope it's not here to finish what the Valdari started." As the Soul's Pride turned toward the mysterious ship, G1 couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. For better or worse, humanity's darkest hour had just become something else entirely.